I turned 61 that day, and all I wanted was a quiet dinner with my son, Lucas, and his wife, Ava. Just a simple meal with close friends, nothing extravagant, just good food, warm company, and maybe a toast to another year of holding myself together. Instead, the night ended in a suffocating silence as I stared at the flickering candlelight on the table, while Lucas boldly announced something that shattered everything between us. The evening started normally enough, in a trendy little bistro that Ava had picked out, full of exposed brick walls and Edison bulbs hanging from the ceiling. As soon as I sat down, Ava handed me a small gift bag, the tissue paper puffed up like a peacock's tail. Inside was a tiny outfit printed with the words, "Best Grandma Ever. We thought it's time." She looked at me with wide, hopeful eyes, all sweetness as she began planning the nursery. Lucas chuckled nervously, clearly rehearsing his words, and said, "Yeah, Mom, it's special, especially since we're going to have a lot more space soon." I blinked. More space? Ava leaned across the table, smiling sweetly. "We really appreciate you agreeing to this, Mary. Honestly, not every mom would be this generous." The table went silent. I frowned, confused, not sure what I had agreed to. Then Lucas stood, tapped his spoon against his wine glass, and said loudly enough for the waiter to pause, "Before we begin, I want to make sure everyone's subscribed and ready because tonight isn't just about celebrating my mom's birthday. It's about a big change for our family." Ava pulled out her phone and started recording. "We're moving into Mom's car," Lucas declared with a bright smile. "It makes sense. She's not using it much, and we're starting a family. It's a generous gift, really. Let's toast to the woman who made it all possible." Glasses clinked, but I sat frozen. That car, the old sedan I had saved for, working extra jobs and scrimping to buy it for Ava, was my pride. My gift to them both, a symbol of hope and love. But that night, it felt like a betrayal. Everyone was watching, expecting me to say yes. I wanted to scream no, but my voice caught in my throat. I nodded, terrified, my brain frozen like I was trapped on a stage I never auditioned for. Ava talked about repainting the car's interior, adding child seats, maybe even selling it later to buy a bigger vehicle. Lucas added, "We'll give you plenty of time to adjust, no pressure." They didn't even ask me. They announced it to friends. My car, the one I'd driven for years through good times and bad, the car that carried memories of my late husband, was now just a nursery on wheels for them. I felt my face drain of color as the dinner became a choking struggle. Ava smiled, joking about letting me keep my garden gloves in the glove box. Lucas said, "We'll handle the paperwork, don't worry." But they never asked for my permission. Later, I found old legal documents, forms I'd signed during a hospital stay, naming Lucas as my financial agent in case of incapacity. I'd barely read them, signing just to stop the hospital from pestering me. Now I realized he had a plan, a way to claim the car and control my assets without my consent. That night, sleep fled me. I kept replaying Lucas's bright, expectant face as he tapped his glass. It wasn't love or hesitation I saw, it was calculation. The next morning, Ava posted photos of the car, decorated for a future baby, on social media with captions about new beginnings. They'd already started moving in. When I confronted them, their lawyer called, demanding I sign papers transferring the car's ownership. I refused. I changed the locks to the garage and hid the car keys, but the damage was done. My son and his wife had crossed a line. I packed what I could, called an old friend who sold cabins out of town, and planned my escape. It was time to protect what little was left, my dignity, my independence, and the life I'd built. Months later, in a small lakeside cabin far away, I found peace. Lucas and Ava's messages and calls stopped. I realized I was no longer their mother to control or a resource to exploit. I was free. More than just a car, that vehicle was my lifeline. Without it, I honestly don't know how I would get around. No family close by, limited public transit, and years of relying on that car to keep my independence. But that night, it felt like a betrayal. That night marked a turning point I never expected. After Lucas's announcement at dinner, I felt the ground beneath me crack. The car, the very thing I'd sacrificed so much to buy, was slipping from my hands like sand through fingers. The car wasn't just a vehicle, it was my independence. Without it, I didn't know how I'd manage. The city's bus routes were unreliable for someone my age, and the thought of depending on others made my stomach twist. I'd worked hard, sometimes 2 jobs, so Ava and Lucas could have a safe ride when their family started growing. Now, it felt like I was being forced out of my own life. Days passed, and the reality set in when Ava and Lucas began referring to the car as theirs, not mine. Ava talked openly about repainting the seats, installing baby seats, and even trading it for a bigger SUV someday. Lucas casually mentioned selling the car once they had a more permanent home, as if I was no longer part of the equation. I tried to voice my feelings, but was met with forced smiles and phrases like, "We just want what's best for the family, Mom," or, "This is a gift, you're being so generous by letting us use it." But I hadn't said yes. Worse still, I found out Lucas had used a power of attorney form I'd signed during a hospital stay years ago to make decisions about the car without telling me. He hadn't asked, he just moved forward. One afternoon, I went to the garage and found the locks changed. My heart sank. I didn't know where that left me. No car, no transportation. I felt trapped in a life that no longer felt like mine. It was then that I realized I had to take back control. I reached out to an old friend, Iris, a retired real estate agent who'd helped people out of tough spots. She listened without judgment as I explained everything, from the betrayal at dinner to the changed locks. Iris said, "Mary, you're stronger than you think. We'll figure this out together." That same day, I started documenting every interaction with Lucas, and the more... Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, the unexpected happened. One chilly morning, I woke up to find a brown envelope slid silently under my apartment door. I wasn't expecting mail, especially not like this. With trembling hands, I picked it up and unfolded the documents inside. My heart pounded as I read the bold heading, Preliminary Transfer Agreement, naming me, Lucas, and Ava as parties involved. There was a blank space for my signature. Attached was a note, typed coldly but with an unmistakable tone from Lucas. "No rush, just sign by Friday to expedite the process. Thanks again, Mom." I stared at the paper, disbelief and anger flooding through me. They weren't just asking. They were trying to force me to give up the car I had worked so hard for, without even talking to me. The next day I called my lawyer, who told me that if I didn't sign, Lucas could still use the power of attorney to move forward legally unless I acted quickly. Panic set in. I felt cornered in my own home, but the worst was yet to come. One afternoon, Ava stopped by unannounced. She smiled sweetly, holding a cup of coffee with my name written clumsily on it, and a small gift bag filled with vitamins and prenatal supplements. "We just want to make sure you're healthy, Mom," she said brightly. She walked around my apartment like she owned it, talking about how the car's back seat would soon have a baby car seat, where they'd park it, even joking about selling my old stereo to make room in the garage. I stood frozen in the corner, watching my memories being dismantled piece by piece. Later, I found blueprints taped to my kitchen table, plans for remodeling the garage and installing child safety features in the car. They were already imagining their new life with my car, without me. That's when I realized they had never planned to ask for my blessing. This was their plan from the start. As the days went on, something inside me shifted. At first, I was overwhelmed by anger and betrayal. How could my own son and daughter-in-law treat me like an obstacle? How could they try to take away the car I had worked so hard to buy? The car that gave me freedom and independence? But then, amid the hurt, a clearer perspective began to form. I realized that their actions, while hurtful, came from their own fears and hopes for the future. Lucas and Ava were stepping into a new chapter, a family expanding, responsibilities growing, and in their minds the car was a practical necessity, a way to build that future together. It didn't justify their disregard for my feelings or my autonomy, but it helped me understand where they were coming from. More importantly, it made me see that I couldn't remain silent. I couldn't be pushed aside or erased simply because I was getting older or less capable. This was my life, my home, my car, and I had the right to stand up for myself. I began to gather strength. I called my lawyer to discuss how to protect my rights, not just for the car, but for my financial independence. I also started reaching out to friends and neighbors I hadn't spoken to in years, quietly rebuilding the support network I had let fade. The car wasn't just a possession, it was a symbol of my resilience, and I refused to let it, and myself, be taken away without a fight. With renewed determination, I began to see a new opportunity in the chaos that had upended my life. I realized this painful chapter was also a chance to reclaim control, not just over my car, but over my entire future. Instead of feeling like a victim of Lucas and Ava's plan, I decided to take back my power, piece by piece. I reached out to Iris, my old friend and real estate agent, who suggested I explore downsizing, not out of necessity, but as a fresh start on my own terms. Maybe it was time to find a place that better suited my needs, somewhere I could live peacefully, close to nature, with no one trying to push me out. I also started looking into community programs for seniors, places where I could connect with others, regain independence, and find joy outside the confines of family drama. More importantly, I began investing in myself again. I took up gardening, something I loved but had neglected. I started volunteering at a local community center, sharing stories and laughter with people who truly valued me. The car? It remained a symbol of my independence, but I stopped seeing it as just a possession. It was a reminder that I had fought for my dignity and would continue to do so no matter what. For the first time in months, I felt hope. Hope that no matter the challenges, life could still be beautiful and mine to shape. As weeks turned into months, I noticed a profound change within myself. The pain of betrayal gradually transformed into strength and clarity. I was no longer just the mother who had been sidelined. I was a woman rediscovering her own voice and power. I learned to set boundaries with Lucas and Ava. No longer would I accept decisions made behind my back or feel pressured to surrender what was rightfully mine. When they reached out, I responded calmly but firmly, making it clear I was in control of my life and my belongings. The car remained my sanctuary. I started driving again with confidence, using it to visit friends, run errands, and explore new places. Every mile was a reminder that my independence was intact. I also embraced new passions. Gardening became therapy. Nurturing life in my small backyard garden helped heal wounds deeper than I expected. Volunteering at the community center connected me with people who valued me for who I was, not just my role in a family. Most importantly, I forgave myself for feeling powerless before. I understood now that growth often comes through hardship, and that standing up for oneself is the bravest act of all. Lucas and Ava were still in my life, but I no longer feared them. Instead, I approached our interactions with a newfound strength, knowing I was worthy of respect, love, and dignity. I was no longer just surviving. I was thriving. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you found this video meaningful, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends and family. I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Your support means the world to me.